Guess who's back? Thank you for joining us. It's Age on America on IntellectualRadio.com. Sunday. Happy Sunday. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Before we get off into anything, I want to give a quick thank you to Wanda and Earl for still having this platform. It's Facebook jail. That's another topic for another day for us to be able to express our opinions freely and think while we still can. So man, there's been a lot going on since the last time I was on air. I mean, the last time I was here, we talked about so much about 2020 and all the high hopes that we had. And man, COVID came. So now that we're on the outside of COVID, now that a year has passed and we're on the outside of COVID, I wanted to try to touch on a few things. It's so much going on now, vaccinations, PPP loan money, all type of stuff going on in these streets. And I just wanted to touch on those things now that we're out of the storm and now looking at it. So my first thing is when I first heard about COVID, it's crazy because I'm anti-vax. We talked about this on the show previously. I have a son on the spectrum. April is Autism Awareness Month, so shout out to that. And so I don't vaccinate anyway. So coming with this virus, I was like, man, what is going on? Like, can you share some thoughts about that, Lauren, when you first heard about this whole COVID-19 situation?
Originally, when I heard of it, I put on my conspiracy theorist hat and thought it wasn't really a thing. Like, I don't believe in it. It's something else going on. No. As time went on, the death count was going up. I started to believe in it, but not fully. And fast forward to today, I don't believe 100% everything that's reported on it. I think it's a real thing, but I don't know. It's just crazy, the facts that have been put out there about it.
Looking back to then to now, it was kind of scary at first because they were putting a lot of propaganda. It was a lot of innuendo, a lot of speculation. A lot of people didn't know what was going on. We were just getting a lot of facts. We didn't have a clue what was going on. And then one day, the world just shut down. I'm looking back on my Facebook memories, looking at the months and the weeks and the statuses that I was updating. And one of my posts, I was like, I feel like I'm in Warsaw, Poland. I was looking out the window, snow was falling, garbage was on the street, and it was just completely still. I had never seen nothing like that in my life. And living on the west side, we're a city that never sleeps. So to see the world shut down was like kind of crazy.
Yeah. So I remember when they said COVID had hit the United States, it was like December of 2019 or January of 2020, somewhere in there. And then fast forward, like that 2 months is the time. Well, fast forward to March, the 2 months from January to March was the time period where I was like, no, this isn't a real thing. And then that shutdown happened. I remember being at work, and I worked for a school, and they were like, we're going to close the building starting today. Well, Monday you can come and get your things, but it was Friday the 13th, March.
Really?
Mm-hmm. And they were like, start pulling all your curriculum items, turn them into worksheets, make copies. We're going to get packets out to the kids, and we're going to start doing school remotely. And I was like, really? So I was part of the team that was hustling to get packets together, even came in on that Saturday, got the packets together. Monday, we handed out hundreds of packets. And Tuesday, I work for a charter school. CPS took a month off of school, but charter schools overnight, over the weekend, became virtual. And that Tuesday, March the 17th, was our first day of virtual learning.
I kind of want to segue. We didn't plan on that, but speaking from an education standpoint, how did that feel with shutting down the whole school and the curriculum? Because I'm a fast track to about kids and them being, so not being socially around. But how did that come about, being an educator and shutting down like that fast?
Well, just being at home, and even to this day, I'm still working from home. It was just a crazy experience to shut down that fast. But once everything was like transferred to home and we were on lockdown, well, the lockdown didn't actually happen until May after George Floyd was murdered and the looting and stuff started. So the looting is what caused the No, the looting caused I got my facts twisted. Hold on a second. The looting caused the curfew, but the lockdown came from the pandemic. And I didn't really change my lifestyle. Like I had no choice but to not frequent businesses that I normally would because they were shut down. So that was crazy. But restaurants, I became a regular drive-through person and I still was outside. Nobody else really was. So when you said you felt like you were in Warsaw, Poland and everything was still and quiet, I can see that. But I was just riding through the streets, trying to enjoy the outside.
Looking back now that we are out of that, do you feel as though it was really necessary to shut down the city and have us on quarantine? Because now that we coming out of quarantine and we're getting these tiers lifted, it's like the same thing. I mean, I could understand the apprehensiveness of a new virus coming in and try to contain it, but it's still like the same flow as now. What did locking us down really do? And shutting the liquor store down at 9:00 really hurt my feelings.
It definitely hurt mine also. I don't think they accomplished anything by shutting down completely because when Corona came to the United States, all the states weren't in alignment with what they were doing, the protocols that they were following. So Illinois shut down, but Indiana didn't, or Wisconsin didn't. Someone else nearby didn't. Several states did not. So people are still driving state to state. If there's some virus that they're transmitting and spreading around, like they're still doing that. So locking down this one particular state accomplished nothing. No. And now that tiers are getting lifted, now they're saying there's new strains of Corona. So it's like, I don't know, like when we'll
do you ever think that there will be any sense of quote unquote normalcy? Do you think that we'll ever get back to living how we are, or our masks and social distancing here to stay for the rest of humanity?
In a general sense of will we return to normalcy, I doubt it. Well, I would further say what is normalcy, but that would be a topic for a different day. But generally speaking about normalcy, I doubt that things will go back to normal. I mean, the wearing of the mask, that's actually the only thing that I really did differently during this whole time is wear masks, and only because I had to. But so me, myself, personally speaking, my normalcy never changed. It's still the same. It's still my same normal. Whereas the world as a whole looking, I don't think it'll be a sense of normalcy.
Me too. I'm a at-home person anyway, but staying at home because I want to and being forced to stay home were two different things. But backing up, you talked about the rioting, and I want to just touch on my personal experience because I live in a shopping district and that was hit hard by rioting. And I wasn't born in the 60s. I'm an 80s baby, but we hear about the 60s and the riots, and to look out the window and see that stuff and see those police and riot gear and see people throwing stuff at the police cars and just pandemonium, people stealing, shooting, looting. That was really crazy. And then to see the burnt down buildings when you came out those days after whatever went on and you came out and you rode around the west side and saw those burnt down buildings, I cried. It was like real, like heart-wrenching. I was playing Marvin Gaye, like in the house, like what's going on? Like it was like devastating to see that. And in the midst of that, my baby was graduating from 8th grade. He valedictorian. He didn't have a chance to have a proper graduation, to see his friends, all of that stuff just stripped right away from him in the midst of a global pandemic with rioting, with a lot of turmoil in the streets. I think a lot of people fail to realize the impact of this quarantine and lockdown on people's mental, stability. A lot of people, we sit in the house days, weeks, months on end, uncertain, money uncertainties, uncertainty of the future. And I think a lot of people don't understand the gravity, how that made people feel mentally. You want to talk about that, touch on that?
There's definitely a social emotional connection for everybody, no matter the age, gender, race, whatever. There's a social emotional effect behind the experience of just having to completely shut down the way we did. A lot of people realized if they love somebody, during this time or not. Because
those quarantine romances was something else.
Right. Some people were just getting together. Yeah, that part was crazy. That's a sad note. But yeah, there's a lot, you never know how a certain situation may affect someone internally and what they may or may not tell you. And how situation may affect someone internally and what they may or may not tell you and how they're feeling about it. And just having to, the looting thing, I cried during that situation. And I remember
you came to see me. You were so emotional. You came to see me. I mean, I mean to get off subject, cut you off, but in that moment, I really felt like a real adult. When you came to see me, you was like, I had to come see you because you live right here. She was like, and it's crazy. And we cried on the porch, and I feel like a real adult at that time. Like, man, we living in some scary real times, and I got to be an adult. I have to be a mother. I have to be strong. It was really crazy.
Yes, it was. And you referenced, we weren't part of the 60s. I mean, we've seen clips of it, in class or on the History Channel. The last time I remember being alive during a scene like this would have probably been the 90s and the Rodney King incident. But still, I wasn't up close and in it. I still saw it on TV because that was California. So this was actually my first experience of like being in the midst of it, having to drive through while looking in traffic and seeing the beauty supply right here being torn down and everybody running out. And this person in the lane next to me in traffic talking about something, you want to buy some hell? You look like you probably want to buy some hell. Like, no, but I'm riding with my boys. I have 3 sons. I'm riding with my boys. Like, y'all see what's going on. This is crazy. But this is starting from what we just watched with George Floyd the other day, because it came behind that. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Do you think, it's so much that happened during those months, even with the George Floyd and tearing up Target. I'm saying Target, Minneapolis. Well, I mean, whatever. Well,
Target, everywhere kind of got something.
But with all of that, do you feel as though tensions were high because we had been sitting in the house, because we had been locked down, because we had been quarantined? Or do you think that was just an outcry of a disenfranchised people? Because a lot of people have a lot of, differences of opinion about the looting and stuff, even in regards to it being a reaction from off of killing a black man. A lot of people feel like, that's not our country anyway, burn it up, tear it down. And then a lot of people also felt like, why would you tear down the community that you live in? And now that we're coming out of quarantine and lockdown and we're getting all this money, we're buying the same stuff that we just stole from, so did that really even make a difference?
So I think it was a combination of people that were out doing things. I mean, you had your people that were fully committed to the movement, doing their protesting and walks and things. People like me, I sign petitions and do things to try to affect change. Yeah, I remember I just came across a post you talking about like memories. I went looking for something about George Floyd, but anyway, I saw a post that I had put up about 4 days after he was murdered from change.org saying, sign this, and because this happened and this was crazy.
I mean, I think that people don't understand the magnitude of social media and media. I'm going to say some stuff, but this is my show. I say what I want to say. But I'm going to say, I feel like propaganda played a big role in how everybody felt at that time. I think that the media played on our intelligence and our ignorance at the same time in the midst of a global pandemic, in the midst of us being, fearful, and played on our fears and our ignorance to help instigate a lot of things that may or may not be detrimental to us, because we don't know. We will have to talk about this next year to see the ramifications of what happened with George Floyd and us looting, because right now we're not going to see it because we're still in it, because we're trying to get up out of it. We're still trying to get out of these tears. I mean, I think that a lot of that stuff was magnified by the media to make us, be in these further restraints and be locked down more and have our social and our civil liberties taken away. I talked at the top of the show about me being in Facebook jail and me looking back on all my things that I said. And it's just like a lot of social and free liberties that we take for granted are being taken away under the guise of keeping us safe or some type of mandate to get us in order, which I don't know. That's some topics for some other days though. But I don't feel as though we should elude it, because at the end of the day, is that man gonna go to jail? Do you think so?
No, I don't think he's gonna go to jail. Wait, let me just say one thing on something you just said. It's like um the media playing a role in the propaganda part. The kicker is though, when have they not done it? You know, like every year I was looking at another post that I had put up where it like highlighted every year since the year 2001, and it wasn't literally every year, but it was the majority of the years. Like, oh, swine flu is gonna kill us, Ebola is gonna kill us,
N1H1.
right, like all these things. Well, N1H1 was the swine flu, but you get my point. Like every year is something, and it's this big propaganda around all of that. So I definitely think that's the case. Now to fast forward back up to, no, of course not. No. I only watched the trial during the spring break week. So I didn't see what happened last week. But
I didn't watch the trial at all. The lady at my job watching it, and she getting all agitated. And I told her, why are you watching it? Why are you letting them aggravate you? Why are you letting them upset you? And you know they're not going to show you what you want to know. But, that's another topic for another day as well. I want to talk about vaccination. So now that we're coming out of quarantine, and I don't know, every week it differs. 1 minute we on the decline, 1 minute we on the uprise. I just don't know. I try not to watch TV because I don't want it to cloud my personal judgments on how I feel. So I don't know. But as it stands, I don't know where we like. Where are we? Are we up or we down with this? I don't know.
I watch TV a slight pinch more than you do, but I check in from time to time just to see what they're saying, and to my understanding, there's a new strain. The vaccinations, like more people are getting them. The last time I checked in, I think 20% of the state of Illinois had gotten it. The thing with the vaccinations, though, for me is, one, they're coming from different manufacturers, and all those manufacturers' vaccinations are not compatible with each other. So if you are married, and you get your vaccination with company A, and your husband gets the vaccination with company B, because there's no guarantee just because you guys are married you're gonna get it. You gotta get what's available when you can get it. That's how they doing it. So you all get different things but then they happen to not be compatible with each other. Like, how does that work for real? And then the Johnson & Johnson one, I was suspect when I heard Johnson & Johnson was making one, because it's like, we've been using their powder for years. Now all of a sudden there's class action suits against them for the powder causing cancer.
It's in North Carolina that they've pulled that Johnson & Johnson vaccine because a lot of people are having adverse and neurology disorders associated with it.
And like 3 days ago, I was reading something about one of the sites at Colorado. Now, this was prior to the whole thing getting shut down, like you said, but I was reading how one of the sites had gotten shut down because of that exact same thing in Colorado.
And it's this great big push for vaccines, because I always listen to satellite radio because I don't like commercials, and I like old school music. But I've been listening to a Chicago radio station as of late on Sundays because an old DJ is back on air, and he is like killing it every Sunday with the old school. So I listen to him every Sunday, and the commercials, when you used to listen to the radio, it used to be commercials for McDonald's and cars or whatever. Every commercial is CDC, do your part, get your vaccination, get your vaccination, get your vaccination. And I don't want anybody to feel like I'm against you for doing what you want to do. That's your prerogative. We are individuals. You do what suits best for you. However, what happened to the common cold? Where's the flu? Everything is fast tracked to COVID. Other illnesses don't exist. Where's the big push for something that's like leukemia or something like that? in my lifetime, I can say maybe somebody could call in or tell me something different. I've never seen such a great big push to neutralize something that we don't even know what it is and where it comes from.
Mm-hmm.
How can you attack something that you don't even know what it is? We still have yet to find the origins of this. It escaped out of a lab or Wuhan, China, or somebody released it, or it was mutated. Like, we don't even know where it came from, yet you worked this fast to get a remedy to give us a vaccine for something that we can still transmit and get if we have the vaccine.
And on top of that, you haven't come up with something just to fix or alleviate the symptoms if you do have it. Instead, you just tell people go home for 14 days in quarantine. Like, there's no medicine to help with that, but you have the vaccine. You there's no 100% with any of it, and it just all happens so fast. I just can't get behind trusting it.
Everything happens so fast. You know, if we want to talk about a normal, you know, I'd like to think that me and you are abnormal. If you know what I'm saying. So unique. We do our own thing outside of the box and all of that stuff. So this new normal that we have is like gonna be classism. If you wear a mask, you're an upper echelon. If you don't wear a mask, you're shunned. You're stoned in public. If you have a shot, you can fly. You can do this. You can do that. If you don't, you're a second-class citizen. I feel like this whole epidemic was a way for the establishment to further separate people. We touched on a little bit about social interacting and kids and people. We were already getting to a point where we were not in touch with each other, human touch out the door. Those months when we sat in the house and we were only being able to be around our family has further widened social interaction. You know, I speak on that because everybody's so mean these days. It used to be a time when you could just like smile at a person and they would just give you good energy back. Now everybody uptight. Everybody is so upset, and I think I'm not a doctor. I play one on TV, but I think that's due to us being locked down in the house. You know, it feel like this is some Truman Show, some type of experiment that people plan on us to see how we gonna react, and a lot of people and a lot of us have not made it out of this in one piece, and it's sad to say, especially with our kids coming out of this. How it's going to impact them going back to school. Because I opted out to have Deron not go to school this year. He missed the year. I like to start over fresh. Maybe that's a superstitious thing of me. I like to start things fresh and new. So he's going to start next year. But how is he going to come in after a year of not being around his other peers? He's been around family, and he just now coming to meet his friends. It has even scared him. It's COVID out here. Mine's COVID out here. Like I said, hey, judge me if you want. I've been out the whole time. I've been out the whole time, and I've been washing my hands and using Purex before
I was about to say I was doing that
before it was mandatory. You know what I'm saying? Blowing my nose and putting my tissue in the garbage, all of that. But like coming out of this, how's that gonna affect our kids getting into society, re-entering school? How do you feel as an educator? How do you feel that's gonna go through?
So as an educator, and this is based off of me looking at my own kids and the kids that work in the community that live in the community that I work for. And so looking at them, I feel like virtual learning was like a 50-50 with people. They either really did poorly or didn't do anything at all, or they really thrived. Like, there was not a lot of middle ground. Mm-hmm. There was no gray. It was all black and white with the kids for the most part. And so those kids who thrived, they either thrived because they were always thriving, or somehow this experience and this online learning was actually a better experience for them.
So are you saying that exposed a bigger issue than we have in education? As you said, the kids who thrived, and the kids who weren't thriving at all fell off. I mean, I ain't mean to say that, but that was a good point.
Well, because I was gonna finish off with like, I don't think though that the kids who didn't do well, I don't think that they're ready. And so this question is gonna be for the kids who are going to be passed through and they're not ready. That's a conversation that then we'll look at the education system piece.
And how's that gonna go forward? Because they're gonna be so far behind. How are you gonna reach those kids in the back when the kids in the front are speeding? You know, how's that gonna fare? Because you're not gonna have the time to depend on look at those kids on the back because you're trying to fast track. Because I'm not an educator, but I feel like once school gets to start, it's gonna be like snap, snap, and running at the races to pick up from what was left off. And a lot of kids are gonna fall very far behind.
Yeah, they are, and they well, I would think that they will. Hopefully, they won't. But it is likely that they could, and you just want to try to catch them before they have, like, the fact that they're so far behind, they have no interest and they drop out and leave. So, you know, the good teachers out there can reach kids and get them back.
Still good teachers?
Yeah, there are still some super teachers.
Ain't no more Morgan, no more Mr. Clarks out there.
there are some. I mean, he's an original, but there are some.
One of my lifts one night, it was the lift that I left from Zach Party. He was a school teacher. Wow. And we was talking about COVID and remote. I was about to call it express learning, remote learning. And he was telling me about how many times that he has to talk to parents about kids laying down, not turning the computer on at all. And he was like, he just really does not know what the future holds for our children because a lot of them are not on score, on task, on point from this virtual learning, which I don't know. I'm 50-50 with virtual learning as well because Deron, he thrives at virtual learning. However, he gets tired at times. And he's like, I'm tired of this. And I tell him, and I'm not going to lie. I say, because he's a straight A student. I say, well, you don't have to go today. And he's like, I can't. I have to go to school. So he's one of those kids he's going to get back into school and still go on his path. However, I just wonder what has this done to these kids long term about their way that they interact with people, social skills, computer, their eyesight, their mind. You know, I had read somewhere, and I don't know how true it is, that cell phones and laptops and all these computer devices have low levels of MK Ultra. That's why we can't keep them out of our hands, because somehow or another they've tapped into us. I don't know if it's through electronic waves or brain waves or whatever, what have you. So now we can't keep them out of our hands. I myself fall privy to that. I have it in my hand for no reason at all. Mm-hmm. So you wonder about the long-term ramifications of kids and all this long hours of technology that they've had.
Mm-hmm. Well, I definitely am guilty of the grabbing the phone thing. I even put up a post about that. Like, what did you, prior to the cell phone, what was the first thing you grabbed when you woke up in the morning?
I don't remember. I was in Facebook jail that time, and I couldn't comment. I remember. And I don't remember what I used to do before that.
I feel like you text me your answer too.
I think I did. I
did. With the kids and being at home, they've gotten too comfortable there. You're at home, your bed is there, your game is there. The camera thing is tricky because, you know, the teachers and the schools do want them on, but then it gets tricky because leaving them on, and if you force someone to have it on and something might be going on in the background, it can get sticky and tricky. So some teachers really are adamant about turning it on while others will let it slide. But the kids are at home too comfortable. A lot of parents still have to work, so nobody's there to necessarily wake them up if they don't wake up, or get them back on task if they're not on task. They need the school environment, I think, the building, the brick and mortar of it, just for a better situation, period. Because the environment at home is not the greatest one, like, for focusing, even though it has worked for a lot of the kids that can, like, close their door and focus and that get out the bed. You know, you have kids who actually, I know kids who treat the experience as if they were going to the building. So they get up in the morning, they take a shower, they eat breakfast, they get dressed. And
who's their parents? They need to be my kids' parents.
So then because once you're up, and then, you know, and so they're ready for the day like this. Whereas the ones who didn't have anybody at home to even wake them up, or they just getting up 1 minute before class start. You talking about turn on the camera, I got sleep in my eye, haven't even brushed my teeth or anything. That whole situation is different. So when they return to the building, I don't know how it's gonna be. I did opt in for my kids for the fourth quarter. Well,
So
I
that
asked
should
my
be starting
kids.
now, right?
Hmm?
Fourth quarter should be starting now, right?
It starts like the week of, it's like April 19th or April 22nd.
Okay.
Because CPS's schedule is different from my school schedule. But I believe it's April 22nd. I opted in for my 2 younger boys, but I had a conversation with all my boys ahead of time and asked them how they felt about it, because we've all kind of still been maintaining our regular lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
And my 2 youngest boys wanted to go back. My oldest didn't. He was in high school. He wanted to start fresh and everything. So he opted to stay home, and I didn't opt to make him
the
go.
older kids want to start fresh. The younger kids, they want that social interaction. They anxious to see their friends. I think the older kids want to start over fresh too. So I want to touch about the city opening and the different tiers and the levels. So do you think, because we opened up like a couple times during this lockdown, right, and then got shut down, I was always confused, like what was going on? Could we go outside? Was we locked down? What was open? What was not?
Yeah.
Everything was like real, like hokey pokey, like you put your light foot in, but it was like crazy. Can you go outside? Do you stay on there? Can you go to the store? It was like real crazy. So with the city opening, do you think this was more of economical reasons, or was it just to test the waters, as you say, as the virus increased numbers and decreased or whatever, what have you?
Okay, so to back up a little bit, I think the timeline was, at least for Chicago or Illinois, that we shut down in March. In May, like things shut down in March, but the lockdown, right, shut down in March. May started the looting, which started the curfew. So then the stores were closing earlier. So for the first 2 months when everything was completely locked down, I don't know, but when the city opened back up, they opened a few weeks after the looting happened in May. So they opened in June after the looting happened in May and June. And so when they first opened, there were a lot of restrictions on how many people you could have, if you have to wear a mask. It becomes weird because, and I think it's still like this, you have to wear a mask when you're standing, but once you're at the table, because you can't eat with the mask, so you could take the mask off, but we're all still in the same building. Then they had put some other restrictions down as time went on, and I think they lifted things again at some point. It's kind of been a roller coaster ride for almost the whole last year.
You know what I hated? I hated those grocery store runs when sun out was that sun up. I think we only come out from sunrise to sunset, and I hated being in those grocery store lines 6 feet away from each other with these masks on, waiting to go into these stores. It was kind of embarrassing. Like, I'm waiting in line to go spend my money somewhere, and they treat me like a second class citizen. I really hated that. And then, like, for me, growing up in the inner city, that always very felt unsafe to me, that we standing in this line with purses and money. Anybody could run up on us with a mask and rob us. And I think, and I would say, I think that was happening. And I think it's still going on. When you get through with that, I want to touch on this mask situation and how scary that is. But I hated going to the grocery store. Now it has gotten me to, like, now I'm like my grandmother. I get up and go to the grocery store before 10 o'clock because I want to beat the rush. I don't want to stand in the line, and I don't want to be in here with this mask on all day. I hated all of that about this city opening and those restrictions. It was the worst. I hated it.
Yeah. I definitely have graduated to the let's get the grocery store runs done early. To beat the line. The lines was crazy when everything first started happening. The lines were all the way outside.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't even going to the store then. The pandemic made me increase my online ordering by like 95% because I didn't online order much. It was like a special occasion or something I really wanted that I couldn't find in the store, or something that may be too heavy. But I order all the time now, which
I'm so tired of y'all. Segue. I'm so tired of y'all ordering stuff. It's like, and it's quadrupled, especially with all this money coming in. Man, that's another topic for another day. I'm so tired of these boxes. They piling up everywhere. But yeah, I hated it. And then when the looting came, they tore up a lot of stores in your neighborhood, which forced you to have to online shop and go to other areas, which was bad as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was something you touched on before that I can't
About
recall.
what? The grocery stores? Oh, the mask.
Okay. So standing in the store line, like I said, back then when the store was coming out out the door, I wasn't going to the store. Now that it's better, you're in the store and they're standing, the line is so long that you're all the way from the register to the meat aisle in the back or whatever. So now I've, started the earlier shopping thing. But inside the store with the mask on, like the whole experience, I just can't stand it. I know as soon as I come outside, it's like ripping off a bra, like, like, oh my goodness, it's so irritating.
It is so irritating. It like, I don't know. I don't, like I say, I'm not a doctor, but I'm pretty sure you cannot breathe in that much carbon dioxide on a daily basis that long, especially if you have to work. Shout out to all the essential workers, because like you say, all the people standing in lines and these long lines, and these people have to sit here with this mask on all day. These delivery drivers, these postal workers, these hospital people, these restaurant clerks. It's been an ordeal, and all this money they sending out. I know, at least for my job, we haven't gotten any essential worker pay. I wonder, is the government giving people essential worker pay? Because if this virus was that detrimental that you had to shut down the world, I'm just really wondering why we need to have Big Macs. Why McDonald's wasn't shut down? People was driving trucks, driving this food, preparing this food. Fast food is not the cleanest industry in the world. We see the videos all the time. I just never understood why things like that was still open.
I didn't understand why they were considered essential either. However, I did frequent them. Yeah, and shout out to the essential workers, like you said, because they are doing their thing and have been this entire time. McDonald's is not essential. I wish the essential drivers that leave my packages would just ring my bell, though.
Girl, we not finna bash it. We not gonna bash this. We not finna do that at all.
Because I don't get an alert saying the package is there, and so it's like it just sits there.
Put your number for text alerts. Put it in the little thing when you get text alerts. If you just start online shopping, you have to get into the groove. I've always online shopped because I hate stores anyway, so I could do what I do, but put your text message in for the alert.
Okay. Well, I'll do that starting today.
Yes, please, and thank you. But going back to the mask, so now we in this world of masks, and I'm not gonna lie. At nighttime, when I see young boys with masks on their face, I get real scared. I don't know if the government or whoever that put this into play thought about the other side of that. People with masks robbing you, hurting you, doing stuff to you. You don't know who these people are. You don't know who these assailants are. You're going to go to a lineup and say, blue mask, black and white mask. You can't see these people's face. You have no facial recognition. And people just got their eyes on, and they doing a lot of dirt. I was walking from the post office not the other day, but one of these warm days, and it was a young guy on a moped thing with a mask on. He ride past me. I look him in his face, just glancing. He looked me in my face. Only thing I see is his ass. He get up a couple blocks, turn a corner. I hear gunshots. Now, I don't know if he was on that thing shooting at nobody, but still, instances like that where people have masks on and can do all these things to you, I don't think that they understand the other part of that, especially people who live in the inner city who are susceptible to violence and stuff like that already. I don't think they understand the severity of that.
No, a lot of times I feel like the people who are putting the rules in place are thinking more in the moment instead of the aftermath. Everything just happens so quickly. Let's, do this now. Put the mask on. and stay 6 feet. First, they weren't sure. First, there was a different amount of feet you had to stay. The distance you had to keep. And anything that came behind that, I definitely don't think they thought that far out. I definitely in the dark feel like when someone has a mask on, it just feels a little more creepy.
It's especially these young boys. I'm scared of them without a mask. So with one on, I'm doubly petrified. How do you feel about the city's response to the pandemic and how government officials handle the pandemic? Because I, for one, was very upset with the way local government handled this pandemic, especially with the governor shutting down stuff and then sending his family to Florida. If it's that bad to where you have to shut down schools and people can't work, why are you sending your family to Florida? And I'm sure you have private jets and probably the upper echelon of health officials and yada yada yada. But if it was that bad, why were you sending your family to Florida? Why were you still having press conferences standing closer than 6 feet with no mask on? Why was those things not implemented in your own cabinets and city hall, et cetera, et cetera? If it was that detrimental, city officials, why wasn't more done? And where were our aldermen? I can't really recall any elected officials. I say, call me and tell me if I'm wrong, people. But I can't remember seeing anybody stepping up and saying anything. Maybe with the exception of few. I don't know.
Willie Wilson, is he alderman or what's his?
He's a senator. I mean, of course, we ain't gonna talk about Willie Wilson because he don't get enough credit for what he do in the city.
He was like on the corner last week handing out envelops of money to people.
Yeah, he don't get enough credit. So I'm not talking about him. I'm talking about more of people in play, like what is her name? Lori Lightfoot, and your local alderman. Do you know? I don't even know who my alderman is. Do you?
I know where the office is, and that's only because I looked it up one day for a completely different reason. But I don't know who the person is. No,
and that's a shame because, like, remember when I don't know about, what I'm saying, your parents, but like in the early 90s. My mother knew all the people, they were like deep into the community and they used to come out and talk to them and stuff like that. And
you would know them when you saw them.
You know them when you saw them, and it was a lot of like drives and fundraisers. And it wasn't just the annual back to school thing with the hot dogs and the book bags. It was like always something going on. I don't know who my alderman is. And I don't even know who any of these people are until they pandering for votes.
Right. Yeah, that's when you learn about them.
That's when you learn about them more.
I don't know my person, and back in the day though, I did see people. I remember my first day of first grade, and Jesse Jackson came over. I remember my daddy making me pancakes, and I remember Jesse Jackson tossing the ball with me in the front yard on my first day of first grade.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Did you go to school up north?
Mm-hmm.
He came up north?
He came to the house.
To your house?
Mm-hmm.
Who he know?
I think the lady downstairs, my parents' tenant.
Really? Was they dating or what?
No.
Was he an alderman?
She was like a news lady.
Really? I never heard this story.
Yeah, that happened. You can ask.
I don't think you lying, girl.
Oh. I mean, I know you don't think I'm lying, but you could ask my parents more information.
Really? I never knew that. Look, your moment in Black history. But I don't remember seeing nobody really stand up and say anything. I know a couple grassroots organizations, people that I know did things about masks and passing out food and stuff, but I don't remember seeing nobody really come out and say anything.
I think the city has done things. If you want to talk about, have they spent dollars to provide equipment and certain things, like even the reopening of the buildings? Have they put these, I don't want to call them ventilator machines because that's the wrong word, but these almost like what's the word to start with?
You can wait a minute. Why are you whispering? Why are you whispering?
Because I was.
This is not a game show. You
right.
will not.
I'm thinking maybe they won't hear if I whisper, but I'm like, there's a mic there. They'll probably still hear. I can't think of the word, and I'm jumbling over my words. But the point I'm trying to make is that the city has put dollars out there to provide certain equipment. They have done that. I'm not gonna say they haven't.
Okay. back to the curfews and things. Do you feel as though the city did a good job with that?
No, it was ridiculous and it didn't serve a purpose. Like, so I thought they initially were putting the curfew in place because of the looting. But it's like people can loot in the daytime or the nighttime. I mean, yeah, they were looting more at night, but there was wild things happening in the daytime. So I never understood the purpose behind it. It was more just an inconvenience. And I really think when they change times and reopen things, they do it though for their own benefit. There being the city, like, oh, we need more dollars now. Let's increase the hours or the days.
I agree with that 100%. So now I'm going to bring back a portion of the show that I used to do. It's called Succotash. Succotash is all type of things, beans and corn and stuff. So you talk about anything you want to talk about. It could be serious, it could be funny, it could be personal. Talk about anything you want to talk about. And since my sister, my friend of 20 years, came to do my first show,
26 now,
26, she came to do my first show back with me. Big ups for that. I'm gonna give you some dap outside of the glass. Thank you for coming to do that for me. I'm gonna let you go ahead and take the floor. And what do you want to talk about, Tibbs?
Well, in recent news, the hip hop community lost DMX. AKA Earl Simmons. He passed away on Friday. I'm not actually sure at this point still if they know the 100% cause. Like, yeah, they said he was still using, but is that the 100% cause? I don't know. So, I just wanted to say rest in peace to him. He was only 50, and I was a fan of his music and his movies. And despite whatever negative perception people might have about him, he did do positive things in the community and give back. And he was a very spiritual man and had a deep relationship with God. And even if his relationship with God doesn't match yours, that doesn't make it any less relevant or real. And so shout out to DMX.
Yeah, I love X too. And like, I always put a song of the day on social media just because in my former life, I know I used to be a DJ somewhere because I love music so much. So and it's so funny because I just was like on my Rough Rider kick like in February. So I was listening to him and Eve and Dragon and stuff, a lot of Swiss beats. And my little brother, who is Lauren Michael, just like you, he is the one who put me on the DMX. And I always liked him, and he always felt like Pac to me. Like always a messenger of truth. Like I was telling my friend today, like the old people, they could feel a Otis Redding or a Sam Cooke or a Marvin Gaye because they sung about they passion and they struggles and they pain in music, and you could feel that, and you could feel that same thing from DMX or Tupac. You could feel the struggle, and he a grown man talking about his mother abusing him as a child, and still slipping and falling. I gotta get up, giving a lot of courage. I was with some friends of mine, some guy friends, the day he died, and they was like, play that. He was like, man, DMX pulled me through a lot of dark days. And it's that type of thing that bonds people. That's why we love music, because it's the best medicine ever. It can make you smile, it can make you cry, it can make you happy. Such your soul, girl. I listened to Yolanda Adams 53 times this morning. Wow. That's in a row, because I needed that like pick me up. So definitely a shout out to DMX. Rest in peace to him. I loved him as a Rough Rider too, though. But we almost coming to the end of my first show. I want to just say some quick little babbly things. I'm so happy to be back on the air. I'll be having so much to say. Like I said, I'm in Facebook jail, and I do a lot of funny stuff and raunchy humor on Facebook, but I'm very much into speaking about real things that matter to us. I think it's important and imperative that people who have different opinions and who could challenge people to think, who want to know more, who want to see more, who want to be open for more for us, need to use their power, their voice to get things out, because one person can definitely make a change. I don't know if it's me, if that's the vessel that I am to use this big mouth of mine to talk about things that people normally don't talk about, offer opinion, probably ruffle some feathers, but definitely I want you to think. I want you to expand your mind and have different viewpoints about a lot of things, because as we're going into these years and we're getting older, it's up to us, and if the children are the future, we have to definitely set better examples with all the things that we do. So once again, it's happy Sunday. Guess who's busy on Intellectual Radio?
Asia on America.
Asia on America. I'm out.
Don't wanna let it go. Echo, don't wanna let you